everybody, welcome back to one of my favorite videos to do every month, and that is to take a look at the new book releases coming out in November. I cannot wait. Let's get into it. I will say this is my second time filming this video. Thankfully, I only got a couple of books in before I realized that I didn't turn this mic on. Had everything else set up, just didn't turn this thing on, and that's really frustrating because I have been talking for like 10 minutes, but it's okay. It's not your fault. It's all mine. So I have been on Goodreads and I'm looking at the new releases, and I will say November seems like a very mild new release month. It feels like a lot of sequels and continuations of series, so that's kind of difficult for me to talk about because I don't really want to talk about like continuations of series, especially if I've never read the first book or anything like that. Although I will say the first and probably only continuation of a series I will be talking to you about is that the second Legends and Lattes book is coming out. It is called Brigands and Bread Knives by Travis Baldree. It's expected November 11th. If you have not read Legends and Lattes, there is a Legends and Lattes and a prequel, which I have not read the prequel yet. Legends and Lattes is a super cozy fantasy book. I highly recommend it if you enjoy cozy fantasy, but it's exciting to see that the second book is coming out very soon. Y'all, I really had to scroll to find some books. So this one is coming out expected November 18th. It is by Emily Krempholtz, and it is Violet Thistlethwaite is Not a Villain Anymore. It says it's a new cozy fantasy romance, which sounds very cute, and I love this cover. It says a powerful plant witch and a grumpy alchemist must work together to save their quiet town from a magical plague in this debut cozy fantasy romance about starting over, redemption, and what it really means to be a good person. Shadow Fate is dead, and after a lifetime as the Dark Sorcerer's right hand, Violet Thistlethwaite is determined to start over, not as the fearsome Thorn Witch, but as someone kind, someone better, someone good. The quaint town of Dragon's Rest, Violet decides, will be her second chance. She'll set down roots, open a flower shop, keep her sentient, mildly homicidal houseplant in check, which is crazy. There's always sentient houseplants, and prune dark magic from the twisted boughs of her life. Violet's vibrant bouquets and cheerful enchantments soon charm the welcoming townsfolk, though nothing seems to impress the prickly yet dashingly handsome Nathaniel Marsh, an alchemist sharing her greenhouse. With a struggling business and his own second chance seemingly out of reach, Nathaniel has no time for flowers or frippery. What does frippery mean? And certainly none for the intriguing witch next door. When a mysterious blight threatens every living plant in Dragon's Rest, Violet and Nathaniel must work together through their fears, past, and growing feelings for one another to save their community. With a figure from her past knocking at her door and her secrets threatening to uproot everything she's worked so hard to grow, Violet can't help but wonder, does a former villain truly deserve a happily ever after? That is very cute. I really like the cover of this one. I don't think I've ever seen a cover that looks like this. This is called Daddy Issues by Kate Goldbeck. It's expected November 18th. It says sometimes love shows up where you least expect it, right next door. It is a new contemporary adult romance. It says a jaded 20-something is stuck living at home, her life on pause, when a single dad becomes her new neighbor and unexpectedly sets her life and her heart into motion in this modern love story from the best-selling author of You Again. I cannot get over this cover. It says at 26, Sam Pulaski expected to be thriving in her academic career, living on her own in some exciting city. Expectations meet reality. She has a massive student loans from studying art history, a dead-end service industry job, a situationship that's equal parts intoxicating and toxic, and she's been crashing in her mom's condo, at least it's not a basement, for the last 5 years. If she can finally get accepted into a PhD program and get out of Ohio, adult life that's been on hold for half her 20s will finally begin. It says her mom's new neighbor Nick is the ultimate grown-up. His adult life began the moment his 9-year-old daughter Kira was born. Her happiness is Nick's only priority, especially in the wake of divorce. There's nothing he won't do for Kira, including giving up his globe-trotting career for something more stable, like managing a chain restaurant. Sam has zero interest in an ultra-dependable guy pushing 40. Frankly, she's a little afraid of kids, but with just one thin wall separating the two condos, Nick proves difficult to avoid. His quiet confidence forces Sam to grapple with the other men and her emotionally derelict friend with benefits and her actually derelict father. That sentence was weird. As her unexpected connection with Nick heats up and steams up his minivan windows, Sam finds herself falling fast for a man whose life is steady and settled while hers is anything but. I mean, it looks pretty freaking cute, honestly, and I like that it's called Daddy Issues because she clearly has daddy issues, and he is a dad. That's cute. Next, we have a new book from Kate Quinn called The Bridesmaid. This is expected November 4th, right around the corner. It says, the Kensingtons invite you to the society wedding of the decade. There's just one hitch. You might not make it out alive. We need some more thrillers. It says, when a celebrity bridesmaid is murdered weeks before an exclusive society wedding, forensic attorney Holly Stone is drafted as an unlikely undercover replacement. Interesting. She works to unpick the lives in the notoriously private Kensington family, glamour-averse Holly discovers a new worst enemy in bridezilla Adriana. Heir to a multi-million-dollar fortune, Adriana is set on throwing the event of the decade, and she won't let anything get in her way. But beneath the veneer of poise and sophistication, Adriana and her bridesmaids have secrets worth killing for. As the wedding day gets closer, it's clear that one of the 5 handpicked bridesmaids has committed murder, and a destination wedding is a perfect place to strike again. Soon, Holly finds herself on the playground of the rich and famous, but if she wants to find answers, she'll have to make it out alive. Sounds really exciting and also feels like a book of the month pick. I need more thrillers in my life. My thriller shelf is so empty, so I'm interested in that. A new book from Sophie Cousins. I did read a book from Sophie Cousins, I think it was this time next year, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars. This is called And Then There Was You, expected November 18th. Found the perfect man, there's just one big twist. Stuck in a production assistant job and living at home with her parents after a painful breakup, 31-year-old Chloe Fairway isn't where she wants to be in life. The last thing she needs is to face the people who once voted her most likely to succeed at her upcoming 10-year college reunion. And she definitely doesn't want to see her former best friend, Sean Adler, who is now a hotshot film director living the life Chloe dreamed of. Desperate to make a splash and to save face in front of the man who might be the one that got away, she turns to a mysterious dating service. Enter Rob, her handsome, well-read, and charming match. Perfect +1 to take to her reunion. The more she gets to know him, the more perfect he appears to be. Could be that this dating service knows her better than she knows herself, and can she overlook the one big catch? As Chloe reconnects with old friends, she begins to question everything she thought she wanted. Maybe, just maybe, revisiting the past is exactly what she needs to move forward. That is so cute already. I love that synopsis. I will probably read this one, especially because I really liked that Sophie Cousins that I read before. Ooh, this looks really nice. This is called Blackthorn by J.T. Geisinger. It's expected November 4th. It is a new fantasy, gothic, dark romance, which sounds pretty great. It has some of the plot points at the bottom. It says revenge, touch her and die, shadier than shade hero, forbidden romance, grumpy. Oh, grumpy, I like that. Plot twists galore, Beauty and the Beast, enemies to lovers to enemies to ... Interesting. It says it's from the diabolical mind of New York Times bestselling author comes a scorching new enemies to lovers romance filled with explosive secrets, nail-biting gothic suspense, and the dangerous lure of dark magic. It says you never forget your first love, especially when he's also your worst nightmare. 12 years ago, Maven Blackthorn, that's such a name, fled her small hometown, leaving behind the wreckage of her mother's suspicious death. Now drawn back for her grandmother's funeral, Maven steps onto Blackthorn soil once more, only to find herself thrust into a fresh nightmare. Her grandmother's body has vanished. Blackthorns immediately suspect the Crofts, the ruthless titans of Croft Pharmaceuticals, whose bitter blood feud with the Blackthorns has spanned generations. When Maven comes face to face with Ronan Croft, the son of her mother's suspected killer and the only man she ever loved, she discovers the forbidden passion they once shared is as alive and dangerous as ever. As long-buried secrets claw their way to the surface, betrayal lurks behind every whisper and old vendettas ignite anew. The deeper Maven digs for answers, the more treacherous the game becomes, and the one man she can never seem to escape is hiding a truth that could burn their whole world down. In a town where the dead won't stay buried, is love salvation or the deadliest game of all? Interesting. And also, I know this is just a Goodreads cover right now, but this looks so pretty. A new young adult sci-fi dystopian coming out from Chloe Gong. This is called Cold Wire. It's the start of a series and is expected November 4th. It says the future is loading. To escape rising seas and rampant epidemics, most of society lives upcountry in glistening virtual reality, while those who can't afford the subscription are forced to remain in crumbling downcountry. Interesting. But upcountry isn't perfect. A cold war rages between two powerful nations, and no one suffers for it more than the orphans from one place to another. I'm not gonna be able to pronounce that. Their enrollment at Nile Military Academy is mandatory. Either serve as a soldier or risk being labeled a spy. The person's name is Uriel? Graduated the academy and joined Nile Corps' private forces downcountry exactly as she was supposed to. Then Atalhawa's most wanted anarchist frames her for assassinating a government official, and she's given a choice: cooperate with him to search for a dangerous program or go down for treason. Meanwhile, Leah is finishing her last year upcountry at Nile Military Academy. Paired with her academic nemesis for their final assignment, Leah is determined to beat him for valedictorian and prove her worth. But there may be far more at stake when their task to infiltrate Medulo and track down a traitor goes wrong. Though Uriel and Leah tear through Medulo on different planes of reality, the two start to suspect they are puzzle pieces in a larger conspiracy, and the closer they get to the truth, the closer their worlds come to a shattering conclusion, or collision. I am interested in this. It is young adult, but it sounds really interesting, and although I can't pronounce any of the names, as I'm reading them in my head, I don't have to. A new horror thriller coming out. This is from Marissa Cashino. This is called Best Offer Wins. It's expected November 25th. I do love the cover of this. It says 18 months and 11 lost bidding wars into house hunting in the Washington, D.C. suburbs. A 37-year-old publicist, Margot Miyake, gets a tip about the perfect house in the perfect neighborhood, slated to come up for sale in 1 month. Desperate to escape the cramped apartment she shares with her husband husband Ian and in turn get their marriage, plan to have a baby, and a whole life back on track, Margot becomes obsessed with buying the house before it's publicly listed and the masses descend with unbeatable all-cash offers in hand. A little stalking, harmless, a bit of trespassing necessary. As Margot infiltrates the homeowners' lives, her tactics grow increasingly unhinged, but just when she thinks she's won them over, she hits a snag in her plan. Undeterred, she'll prove again and again that there's no boundaries she won't cross to seize the dream life she's been chasing. It sounds like female rage, and I'm really excited for it. New young adult fantasy romance from Kristen Ciccarelli. This is called A Dark Forgetting. I believe this is just going to be a standalone, which is kind of exciting. It's expected November 4th. No matter how far she runs, the forest always comes for Emmeline Lark. She's haunted by its mysterious disappearances and the tales of fey magic lurking in its depths. When her grandfather goes missing, the stories Emmeline has always scoffed at suddenly seem less foolish. She enters the forest she has spent years trying to escape, only to have Hawthorne Fell, a handsome and brooding tithe collector, really try to dissuade her from searching, even as a magnetic spark ignites between them. Using to be deterred, Emmeline, I'm just gonna pronounce it all different, finds herself in the court of the fabled Wood King. She makes a deal, her voice for her grandfather's freedom. Okay, Ariel. Little does she know she's stumbled into a curse that threatens the existence of this eerie world she's now trapped in. To survive, she'll need the help of the fiery Hawthorne, who she's so helplessly drawn to. If she fails, she'll lose everything she holds dear. Devastating and romantic, and Kristen Ciccarelli's A Dark Forgetting, everything has a cost. This is really pretty. I still need to read Heartless Hunter. I actually think I'm going to end up reading it this year. I've heard Kristen Ciccarelli is a great author, and I could always use a new young adult fantasy romance to love. I feel like all romances kind of generally look the same, like cover-wise recently, so I really want something different, but this cover is still very cute. This is called Secret Nights and Northern Lights by Megan Oliver. This is expected November 18th. It's a new adult contemporary romance. It says childhood best friends and first loves are reunited on a make-or-break work trip to Iceland with old feelings coming to the surface in this charming romance from debut author Megan Oliver. I do love childhood friends to lovers. Mona Miller lives her life by, she's just fine, thanks, all good, not a problem. Everything is right as rain, even if it's all a lie. Everyone at the travel magazine where she works knows her as a team player, in other words, the one who won't complain about the endless fluff pieces pushed her way. But feeling snubbed after being passed over for a promotion, Mona jumps at an international assignment to Iceland, even though she's woefully unprepared. She's determined to prove her worth, though, and her can-do attitude will scale any glacier. The freelance photographer paired with her is none other than Benjamin Carter. Ben, her childhood best friend, who understood her even when her family didn't. Ben, her first love, first everything, and Ben, the boy who ghosted her 14 years ago and left her brokenhearted. Ghosting is crazy. There's a decade's worth of resentment Mona needs to ignore if she wants to make it through this trip. She'll put on her no worries facade and hold Ben at a distance. But the more time they spend together, the more the ice around her heart melts. As those old feelings spark back to life, Mona must decide if she's willing to go on the biggest adventure of all. This sounds very cute. I probably will end up reading this at some point. I love this cover, and it looks like it is a new horror mystery thriller. This is by Nichelle Giraldis. This is The Forest of Missing Girls, expected November 11th. It says the forest is hungry and her family's secrets are tangled in the trees. I love that hand coming out. That's so creepy. Leah Gregg always hoped to outgrow her fear of the woods surrounding her childhood home. The dark, menacing trees have long been the site of whispered legends and disappearances of girls like her. But after a breakup sends her back to live with her family, the woods feel more sinister than ever. When a teenage girl disappears from their backyard, Leah's childhood fear becomes terrifyingly real. Missing girls are no longer just faces on the news. Now the danger is closer than she imagined, and her younger sister could be next. As Leah digs into the disappearances, she begins to suspect her mother knows more about the forest and the horrors within than she's letting on. To save her sister and uncover the truth, Leah must confront the secrets lurking in the trees and the darkness they conceal before it's too late. I love that horror and thriller novels, mostly horror, the synopsis is so short because, like, obviously you want to read it to know what happens, but that sounds so good, very, like, haunting and spooky, and I really hope it's paranormal because I'm interested in that. A new adult romance from Jessie Q. Sutanto. This is Next Time Will Be Our Turn. I really like this cover. I haven't seen a cover like this in a while, and it's very pretty. This is expected November 11th. It says Izzy Chen is dreading her family's annual Chinese New Year celebration where they all come together at a Michelin-starred restaurant to flaunt their status and successes in hopes to one-up each other. So when her 73-year-old glamorous and formidable grandmother walks in with a stunning woman on her arm and kisses her in front of everyone, it shakes Izzy to her core. She's always considered herself the black sheep of the family for harboring similar feelings to the ones her, I'm not going to be able to pronounce this, Nai just displayed. Seeing herself and her teenage granddaughter's struggles with identity and acceptance, Magnolia Chen tells Izzy her own story of how as a teen she was sent by her Indo-Chinese parents from Jakarta to Los Angeles for her education and fell in love with someone completely forbidden to her both by culture and gender norms. Ellery, an American college student who became Magnolia's best friend and the love of her life. Stretching across decades and continents, Magnolia's star-crossed love story reveals how life can take unexpected turns but ultimately lead you to exactly who you're meant to be. That sounds so stinking cute. Love the setting, love the premise. I will honestly probably end up reading that. Another new thriller. I am very excited. There's a lot of new thrillers. This is called Where He Left Me by Nicole Bart. This is expected November 4th. College professors Sadie Sheridan and Felix Graham are on sabbatical at Hemlock House, located on a remote mountain homestead established years ago by Felix's family. Felix leaves on a work trip but doesn't return, effectively stranding Sadie on the mountain. Her world collapses. Alone at Hemlock House, frantic Sadie struggles to make sense of what her missing astronomer husband left behind. Forced to confront two mysterious trespassers, just as a powerful storm bears down, Sadie and the strangers have no choice but to ride it out together. Why would you let them in? As conditions worsen and shocking secrets are revealed, Sadie must face whether or not she ever knew the man she married, and is she fighting only for her own survival now, or still for the man who promised her the stars? Oh, I'm interested in that. I like that, and I love the titles Where He Left Me because it just makes so much sense. I like that, and that also feels like something Book of the Month would pick. Oh, this is so cute. I love this cover too. This reminds me of Emily Wilde, just a pinch. This is by Haley Kiyoko. This is expected November 4th. It is called Where There's Room for Us. Probably another, I would assume, young adult romance, historical romance. I do love a good historical romance. When her brother unexpectedly inherits an English estate, the outspoken and infamously daring poet Ivy swaps her lively New York life for the prim and proper world of high society and quickly faces the challenges of its revered traditions, especially once she meets the most sought-after socialite of the courting season, Freya Talon. Or Freya. I always say Freya. Freya's life has always been mapped out for her. Marry a wealthy lord, produce heirs, and protect the family's noble status. But when she unexpectedly takes her sister's place on a date with Ivy, everything changes. The first time she feels the kind of spark she's always dreamed of. As Ivy and Freya's connection deepens, both are caught between a desire and duty. How much are they willing to risk to be true to themselves and each other? Oh, that's so cute. It says it's inspired by Haley Kiyoko's own experiences with her classic favorites like Little Women and Pride and Prejudice. It's a romance set in a world where society's expectations are everything, but love is so much more. Oh, that's so cute. It is young adult, so I don't know if I'll end up reading it. I don't tend to really love young adult romances, I say sometimes, but it is still very cute. A new mystery coming out. This is called The Dinner Party by Viola Van de Sant, expected November 4th. Love this cover. It says it's for fans of Cleopatra and Frankenstein and Assembly. Interesting. The story is told over the course of a dinner party, from its careful preparation through its explosive, irrevocable finish, about the tensions of love and autonomy, grief and female rage, and the surprising moments when they come crashing to the surface. Franca left the Netherlands behind to start her new life in England with Andrew, whose parents lived in South Kensington but had a flat their son could borrow nearby. Andrew, an old-fashioned British gentleman who encourages her not to work but to instead focus on her writing. Andrew, who suggests a dinner party with his colleagues to celebrate their big upcoming launch. A dinner party that Franca must plan and shop and cook and clean for. A dinner party during a heat wave when the fridge breaks, alcohol replaces water, and an unexpected guest joins their ranks, upending the careful balance between everything Franca once was and now is. Expertly weaving the past and present with precision and delicious tension, Dinner Party is a thoughtful and thought-provoking look at female rage, body autonomy, and all the concessions women make throughout their lives, big and small, until the surprising moment when they decide they can make them no longer. I love that, and I will probably be reading that. I love this cover. Oh, this is a cute young adult fantasy romance, and I know I just said I don't read young adult fantasy or young adult romance, but this is so cute. This is by Cale Dietrich. This is My Roommate from Hell, expected November 11th. Swoon-worthy YA rom-com about an ambitious college student whose plans get derailed when he discovers his roommate is the Prince of Hell. Oh, because that's so fun. Owen is not going to college to have fun. Nothing is going to stop him from achieving his goals. Study hard, get a good job, and set himself up for the rest of his life. The last thing he needs is to have a loud, obnoxious, and infuriatingly hot roommate, especially since said roommate just so happens to be the Prince of Hell. Prince Zarmenis has come to Point University for the first ever Earth-Hell exchange program. He's determined to make the most of it. Okay, I love this. Which may or may not include wild parties, bringing in random boys to his and Owen's room, and accidentally setting Owen's furniture on fire. Sparks fly, literally, as Owen and Zar clash, but Zar's actions threaten to not only ruin Owen's peaceful college life, but even human relations as well. To clean up his image, he asks Owen to be his fake boyfriend, and teach him how to be a better human in exchange for an internship that will secure Owen's future. That and Zar will consider being a better roommate. A deal is struck, and the two start pretending to be in a relationship where they each have agendas of their own. Only Owen has a secret dating his mortal enemy. Even if it's fake, is the most fun he's ever had. Charming and fun, My Roommate from Hell is a rom-com with a magical twist. Think just one bed, but that bed is in hell, surrounded by fire and brimstone. Oh, I love that. That sounds so good. I'm kind of obsessed with that. Another new thriller coming out. See, I think I was talking about where are all the thrillers. Here they are. This is Made You Look by Tanya Grant, expected November 18th. A Catskills retreat turns deadly for a group of influencers when a snowstorm cuts them off from their greatest resource, their followers, just as a killer strikes in this irresistible debut thriller. Also feels like a Book of the Month pick. Sydney Kent is the ultimate it girl. You want her effortless style, her charisma, her hair. You want to be her. You want to be with her. But the trouble with a star is that everyone else looks dull in comparison. Despite Caitlin's social media cunning, it's impossible for her to step out from Sydney's shadow. Even Lucy, Sydney's best friend since before her fame, can't escape her role as a full-time photographer to the influencer. When the women are invited to post content for a secluded new retreat in the Catskills alongside Sydney's boyfriend Jeff, stylist Nash, and manager Brent, weekend feels like it will be a fresh start, but an unexpected snowstorm traps the group together with no self-service, no Wi-Fi, and no way out. Then a killer strikes, and the dream trip becomes a nightmare. Secrets, lies, and scandals are forced to the surface, and the friends can't help but suspect the murderer might be among them. Worse, the killing has only just begun. But where there's danger, there's juicy, jaw-dropping, name-making content to be created. You know you want to look. I'm interested. I'll see what other people say before I fully commit to this one. Okay, maybe I should slow down, but we have another thriller here. This is What She Saw by Mary Burton, expected November 1st. Investigative reporter returns to the scene of a decades-old crime to put her own unsettled past to rest. Cold case reporter Sloane Grayson has come to a small mountain town in Virginia to solve a mystery. 30 years ago, her mother was one of 4 women who vanished during a music festival. The event's promoter was eventually convicted of their murders, and Sheriff C.J. Taggart closed the case. For Sloane, it's still open, because the bodies were never found. With Taggart now long dead, Sloane must make do with questioning the victims' families and the few remaining witnesses once again. They're still willing to dredge up memories of a crime that made their town notorious. As for the incarcerated killer, he has always maintained his innocence. Sloane isn't entirely convinced he's lying. Somewhere nearby, unmarked graves conceal the bones and secrets of the dead. Sloane will do anything to find them and unearth the truth, even if that means playing a dangerous game of cat and mouse with someone determined to stop her. That sounds interesting. See, the influencer thing never really gets me, but stuff like that, very interesting. Only a few more. This next one is a horror, which I'm very excited about. This is from Christina Henry. It's called The Place Where They Buried Your Heart, expected November 4th. I really like the cover. I like how kind of like old school horror this looks. Woman must confront the evil that has been terrorizing her street since she was a child in this gripping haunted house novel, perfect for fans of The Last House on Needless Street and Tell Me I'm Worthless. I'm already invested. On an otherwise ordinary street in Chicago, there is a house, an abandoned house where once upon a time terrible things happened. The children who live on this block are told by their parents to stay away from that house, but of course children don't listen. Children think it's fun to be scared, dare each other to go inside. Jessie Campanelli did what many older sisters do and dared her little brother Paul, but unlike all the other kids who went inside that abandoned house, Paul didn't return. His 2 friends, Jake and Richie, said that the house ate Paul. Of course, adults didn't believe that. Adults never believe what kids say. They thought someone kidnapped Paul or otherwise hurt him. They thought Paul had disappeared in a way that was ordinary, explainable. The disappearance of her little brother broke Jessie's family apart in ways that would never be repaired. Jessie grew up, had a child of her own, kept living on the same street where the house that ate her brother sat, crouched and waiting. Darkness seemed to spread out from that house, a darkness that was alive and hungry. I'm fully invested in this. I will be reading this. Sounds so good. Okay, this is gonna be my last one. We have a young adult horror, which I do tend to really like young adult horror, but this is by Rin Shepeko, and I did read Silver Under Nightfall by Rin Shepeko. I didn't love it. I know a lot of people really did. It just wasn't my cup of tea, although this sounds really interesting. It's called We're Not Safe Here. It's expected November 4th. Like I said, it's a young adult horror, which is kind of exciting. Wispy Falls town motto, you'll be safe here, but that doesn't seem to be true because in Wispy Falls, monsters live in the woods and children go missing and the bodies are beginning to stack up. A 17-year-old vlogger known as Storymancer is determined to get to the bottom of what's wrong in Wispy Falls. You might have lost me. A few years ago, his 6-year-old brother went missing in the woods and no one in town seemed to care enough to find him. So now he's investigating why every household participates in something called the Blood Moon Ritual. Why cryptid sightings are so common. Everyone who goes into the woods goes missing. If he can't fix what's wrong with the town, he just might be the next body in the woods. Told primarily through video transcripts, message boards, and radio shows, Welcome to Night Vale inspired horror will chill you to your core. I am 100% reading that. Rin Shepeko, you might have won me back. Alrighty, everybody, that is going to be it for this video. Not a ton of new releases in November, at least not a ton that I'm certainly very excited about, but if there is any that you're really excited about, especially those continuations of series, because it seems that there's going to be a ton of those, let me know down below if there's any that I may have missed. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Go ahead and subscribe if you're not already, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye, guys.